Yo, what is up everybody? Jumping here, and I am back on some Borderlands 3, and today I want to showcase my updated version of my Rakk Attack build. I absolutely love this build. I loved it back in the day, but it is so much better now because we got the brand new Rakk Pack class mod. This class mod makes Rakk Attack so much better. It hits so hard, and it is absolutely one of the best action skills now in the entire game, especially for damage. I want to say it's probably the best in that regard. So this is crazy. Now, if you do want to use a better build, because I talked about this in my recent Zane video, I showed off on how you can do extra projectile glitches. You can do that with Terror, but on Flak, you can actually glitch it so that you can have extra projectiles on any weapon. All you have to do is just keep resetting your skills and keep putting points into your Two-Fang skill, empty your magazine, reload, and then repeat it. Reset, put the points in to Two-Fang, and then you just keep doing that, and you're going to constantly get extra projectiles. So if you are glitching or exploiting, those builds are better. And if you're going to do that with the extra projectile, honestly, Fadeaway is probably your best bet. But if you're trying to play legit, this is definitely one of the best legit builds right now that you can do on Flak. So let's go ahead and start with the skills, and then I'll show some gear. Now, the gear is important, but once again, like I've said this in many videos, if you guys are on PlayStation, if you want to hit me up, my PSN is Jumpin' Production, just like my YouTube name, but without an S. So if you hit me up, I'm more than willing to hook you up with some of this gear. So let's go ahead and start with the red tree because this is really important. Obviously, this is where you get Rakk Attack. Now for your augmentations, I highly recommend going for Falconer's Feast and also going for Flock and Load. Flock and Load is a must. You definitely want this for the extra racks whenever you throw it out. But there is an option to go for this because this is going to give you an extra charge, but it does increase the cooldown. But not having the healing is nuts because with the new class mod, you are throwing out so many racks, and whenever they're hitting something, you're getting 7% of your health restored. It is absolutely amazing. It makes you so tanky for Mayhem 4. I feel like this is kind of a must. And there are ways to actually get extra Rakk Attack charges, but it's kind of hard to do on this build. Now for the actual skills, we have 5 points into Interplanetary Stalker. This is really good for a couple reasons, not only because of the 10% damage stack that you get, but also because of the human bonus, which is going to be 15% action skill. That is huge with Rakk Attack. You definitely want that. I have 2 points into Hunter's Eye. Now, if you want, you could put 2 points into Leave No Trace. I don't really feel like it's necessary with this build, but if you do want to take those points out of Hunter's Eye, you can throw them into Leave No Trace if you like. I have 3 points into Head Count. This is amazing. It's just one of the best skills he has because of that cooldown reduction chance. And this mod can buff this, so that's really good. We have 5 points into Two-Fang for the extra projectile. I definitely like Big Game. Some people don't like it as much, but I do. I have 2 points into this. And I also have 3 points into the Most Dangerous Game. This is amazing just because whenever you kill a badass, you're going to get all these bonuses. It's great. Now, this is something I didn't have on my build before, but now with the new Rakk Attack stuff, this is kind of a must, and the class mod will buff this. That is Grim Harvest. This is going to give you gun damage, but the most important thing is that this is going to give you action skill damage, 70%. Also, they gave it now pet damage, which is super nice, 50%. That's crazy, man. We, of course, will have this for the critical hit damage, because why not? And then finally, Megavore. This is amazing for so many reasons. It works so good with the cooldown head count just because you're constantly getting crits with your gun and then you are getting better cooldown because of that. Now, with my old build, I went into the green tree, but with this build, because we're putting so many points in the red tree and we are also putting a lot of points into Grim Harvest, we don't have that many points left over. So I don't recommend the green tree, although the green tree is really nice for making you tanky. And also, I really do like the power inside with Rakk Attack because it's so easy. I mean, you're constantly throwing out. It lasts for 15 seconds. It is amazing in that regard. But it's 50% damage if you're at full health. Is that really worth it? I don't really know. So I kind of prefer now going into the blue tree. Now with this, we're going to go for Persistent Hunter. This is not good because of action skill duration. We do not need that. but it gives us gun damage, 12%. That's nice. We have 2 points into the pet damage. This is really, really good. Who rescued who? If you put 4 points into this, you're going to get some health regeneration, but the main thing here is that you're going to convert your damage to your pet's health. That will definitely help your pet stay alive, because I forgot to mention, which I should have, the spider ant that you want to use by far is going to be the one that's going to give you 3% health regeneration and then 30% elemental damage. That's going to buff most of your guns if you're using elemental guns, and also it's going to buff the crap out of Rakk attacks, so that is really, really good. After that, we have 5 points into Frenzy. Frenzy, I'm not a big fan of this perk. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, it is good because if the pet is attacking, you can get like up to 40% damage from this. But my pet is just really bad at attacking enemies sometimes, where a lot of times if I pay attention to my buffs, this will be at like 3, maybe 4, which is still decent, but I would love to see it at 10. I would love to see it consistently at 10. And it just never really gets there. So I kind of have a problem with this perk, but it is a good perk. And then we have Cycle Head on a Stick. This is good because of pet damage, movement speed for the pet. Really, really nice. And then we have 5 points into Barbaric Yarp. This is 200% pet bonuses. That's what's going to give us 3% health regeneration, the 30% elemental damage. This is really, really good. The class mob is giving me points into the pet tactics, I think the name of it is. I really do recommend also putting at least 1 point into mutated defenses. That's so good for helping your pet stay alive. And that's important. You want to keep that 30% damage bonus from the spider ant. Now let's talk about the gear. Now when it comes to the gear, to be honest with you, like I said, some of this could be hard to get because it's all RNG. But I do have a lot more Rakk attack stuff. I have a ton of it. I've collected it like crazy. But this is the guns that I decided to actually just go ahead and show off. The main one is going to be the Shocking AAA. This gun is amazing. I showed this off in my original video. It's so much better now for Mayhem 4 because this is going to strip shields like instantly for us. And then with Rakk Attack, that's just going to flat out just kill enemies for us super quick. It is really, really good. Now besides that, another one I really like is More Pain is Power. The reason I like this is because it's going to set us on fire. That is key. Now this can kill you. Okay, it can happen. So you have to keep that in mind. But we are, of course, using an elemental projector, which is going to give us the damage. We also can heal from this. I mean, this projector is so overpowered. Action skill cooldown, magazine, incinerate damage. This is super, super good for this build. And when you're setting yourself on fire, that's going to dramatically buff the weapon, but it's also going to dramatically buff our Rakk attack. And that is crazy. And then the final gun here, I showed this off in another video, is the Westar Gun. I love the Westar Gun. I absolutely do. This one is still crazy. Because of the splash damage bonus, 125%, pretty much any action skill in perk with Rakk Attack, you're going to have that going almost always. Because they're going to be spamming Rakk Attack, and because of that, you always have your action skill in perks going. The splash damage one is super good. Now, I didn't know this for the longest time, but splash damage will buff Rakk Attack. So this is crazy, not only for the weapon, but also for the Rakk Attack itself. And I always wondered why when I was using this thing, my Rakk Attack hit so hard. But now I know it's because splash damage will buff Rakk Attack. Also, area of effect damage will also buff Rakk Attack if you have that on like your relic. So that's just really good information to know. Now, when it comes to the shield and the grenade, you want to use something that's going to give you that bonus damage now. I mean, these are so good. And with Rakk Attack, you always have it. So we have 50% bonus shock damage. This is going to help us get through shields like pretty much instantly. It's great with the Shocking AAA, but it's also really, really good with the Westar Gun or the More Pain is Power. And then we have bonus fire damage. Once again, if we're using our fire weapon, we're going to have even more damage. If we're using our shock weapon, we're going to have fire damage. Honestly, what you want to do, now here's the truth, the grenades, they suck. I don't even use them, they're so bad. And this glitch is really, really awful. But you want to actually have a bunch of different elements. I have corrosion, I have cryo, I have radiation somewhere in here, there it is. I have every element basically ready to go. So if I'm fighting armor or robots or something like that, I can switch over to cryo and corrosion, and that's going to definitely help me deal with armor. I already talked about the elemental projector. This one is crazy. I also have some pretty good relics from like Gamma Burst. I mean, this is great too. You're going to see why in a moment why this one is so good. But let's talk about the mod real quick. This mod's okay. To be honest with you, you do want to have action skill cooldown if you can get it. Weapon damage is of course nice, but you know, it is what it is. This is the best one I have, and I want to get a better one, but right now this is definitely the best one I have. Now, for some of these extra guns here, I have a Nighthawk, and if it's ever nighttime, I put this on. This thing will shred, especially with that 100% increased damage. I haven't talked about that yet, but that anointed perk is crazy because anytime you debuff an enemy, it is really nuts. Because pretty much with this new Rakk attack, whenever you throw it out, it's going to hit so many enemies at once. It's going to debuff pretty much everything on the screen, which is kind of crazy. So by far, that anointed perk is awesome, and it's going to up our damage by a ton. I also have this. Now, this doesn't really work good. I've been trying to use it because it grants an extra charge of Rakk attack. The idea would be to switch to this so that you can get like extra charges of it, but it's not giving me the extra charge. It's very confusing. Rakk attack is confusing in terms of like how many charges are you supposed to have? Because by default, I always have 2. But when I put this on, it doesn't give me 3. But then if you actually look at the skill itself, it makes it sound like you're only supposed to have 1 by default. It's very confusing. I don't really understand what's going on there. But if I ever do need an extra charge, I have this just in case. I also have another Westar Gun here. I have this one primarily because of the corrosion. If I ever really need corrosion, I can always put this on. It's 100% increase weapon damage. Once again, any action skill and perk, any of them, is really, really good with Rakk attack. Now this one is crazy. This is one of my own personal drops. They got a double penetrating laser exploder. It's radiation that's really good at taking down those shields. And of course, Rakk attack is incinerate, really good against flesh. And yeah, man, this thing is nasty, especially with that relic I showed earlier. And then the final weapon I just grabbed off of my bank because I have a bank account. If you guys don't know, I just store everything on that bank account. And I have a ton of these Rakk attack different weapons. But I grabbed this too because this is a fun weapon. The Jericho is always fun. And against bosses, this thing can shred. It really, really does. And I absolutely think it's great. Alrighty, so now, let's actually go ahead and get into some gameplay here. I'm going to show off on how this works. Primarily, I'm going to show it on Mayhem 4. Because Mayhem 4, you know, the enemies have like a lot of health and a lot of shields. But with this type of build where you have all these different elements, and on top of it, you have very powerful weapons and a very powerful action skill that you can spam, I'm going to destroy everything. Alrighty, well this is going to be the gameplay. Right now, I'm kind of doing an experiment. Because one thing I remember from back in the day that always really worked good was if you had a weapon that gave you an extra charge of Rakk attack, if you actually quit out and then loaded in with that weapon equipped, it could like bug out the game. So I could switch to another weapon. We're going to see if it works or not. It probably won't, but I can switch to another weapon and then it will just permanently like make it so I always have 3 Rakk attacks, which is crazy. All right, so we have assault rifle damage, bigger explosions for the enemies, not really a problem. We are using an assault rifle, so that's going to get buffed, but the pistol and the Westar Gun isn't. And the Westar Gun, you're going to be surprised by that gun. I showed that off in the Westar Gun video I made, and I showed it off with flak, and it was nuts. And in that video, though, one thing that people were kind of talking about and pointing out was that I did actually have a 50% SMG bonus damage going at the time on Mayhem 3. And people were kind of saying, like, you know, that wasn't very fair. But, I mean, the thing is, on flak, man, that Westar Gun is just nasty. But yeah, I really do like this Shocking AAA a whole bunch, just because one shot of this will strip the shields, and then the Rakk attack will kind of do the rest of the work for me. And with the new buff to Rakk attack, this is always the only problem, is the cooldown, man. That is an issue. One of the biggest problems is the Guardian rank perks are bugged right now, and that is a big, big bummer because we cannot take advantage of Topped Off. Topped Off is such a good perk. And having that would definitely help with Rakk attack, making it come back. But I mean, pretty much, these racks are going to hit everything once it hits them, and they're taking 100% more damage. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of over for them if I'm using this gun. I mean, look at that. Some of the numbers you could see with this gun sometimes too is like out of this world. Like this gun can have some crazy, crazy numbers. Get out of here, doggy. Let's go ahead and throw that out on him. And yep, that just flat out killed him. This guy is bouncing bullets back, but it doesn't matter. I'm not sure on how long they stay debuffed from the 100% damage. Now, you might think, well, how strong is that? 100% more damage? Wouldn't, like, having, I don't know, 300% damage from phase slam or something like that be better? And, maybe it is, but you have to understand that 100% more damage is like having slag on these enemies. That is crazy, man. Like, being able to slag enemies with your Rakk attack, basically, is pretty epic. And one thing I'm not sure about, is if in co-op, will this actually affect everyone? Like, if I actually make it so that I throw this out, is it possible that this could buff my allies, or at least debuff these enemies for my allies? Because if that was the case, that would be even more ridiculous. Look at that. Guy resists fire damage? Don't matter. More pain is power, man. Look at this thing. It's nasty. The thing about that gun, though, is that it can easily kill you. Here's the Westar Gun. Like I said, be surprised. Look at that, and I'm dead. Okay. Got blown up by something there. And this is not good for me right now. Okay, maybe I can get this guy in time. Come on, die. There we go. But you're going to be super surprised by this gun. This gun is so easy to farm. The moment I get that splash damage bonus, my Rakk attack is going to hit so hard. My gun is going to hit so hard. It's ridiculous. This is Mayhem 4, and this thing is just melting all these guys. And yes, this works fantastic against bandits. It works great against anointeds. If you're going against armor, it's fine as well. The main thing is you just have to adjust. If you have a Westar Gun with corrosion, that's an option if you can get one. Or cryo. This one has cryo on it, which is super good against bandits if they have armor. But the main thing is that this gun is just nasty, man. It is nasty against pretty much everything. It is super good. And with those bonuses now, where we can get shock damage on this, and we can get like radiation damage on this, or corrosion damage, or extra cryo damage, or whatever it might be, whatever it is so freaking good, man. I mean, everything just dies to this. Okay, I'm going to pick that up just because. Why not? I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that this Rakk attack thing is working. It's a bummer. Probably just going to take the weapon off. I can probably throw on another weapon here just to kind of show that off. I guess you guys might want to see this. Now, technically, I could switch over to this because that's a lot of extra damage. And it has area of effect damage, which will buff my Rakk attack. So, that's good. The only problem with this thing right here, this laser sploder, is that if I switch the relic like I did, I lose the magazine and also the cooldown rate, which is not good. But, I mean, look at that. The moment these racks hit them, these guys are just going to melt. The one thing I don't like about laser sploder, never been a huge fan of the magazine on this thing. Because you have to reload this thing all the time. That's the only downside to it. But it having radiation damage on it like this, I mean, that's nasty, dude. It is super nasty because it just strips shields so fast. And then my racks can go in and do some work, man. Just straight out murder everybody for me. And yeah, this thing hits hard too. Like, it hits really hard. And with a projector, if you are using one, it's kind of a bummer, because it can kill you. But if you do get radiated from just kind of like having an explosion next to you when you're using this thing, it's really crazy, man. It can be really, really crazy. And like I said, at any time, I can always switch this up. Like if I say, honestly, I kind of want to go ahead and use some bonus radiation damage. Let's do that. Let's have some extra radiation damage on top of this radiation weapon. By doing that, I am now going to do even more damage. I also have a recharger that has fire damage on it. So that's a really good one. I don't have it on me right now. I couldn't find it, but I know I do have one. So, I can always kind of switch this up to different stuff. And that's just amazing, man. It's absolutely amazing now. I feel like it's kind of unfair, though. It is definitely unfair with these new action skill in bonus damage perks for these elements, because it is so good on Flak with Rakk attack, and it's really good on Amara. But like on Zane and or like Moze, it's not that good just because their action skills, the way they work, it's hard to spam their skills. You cannot really spam their skills. Like with Rakk attack, you can spam it. With Amara, with all her skills, you can kind of spam them a lot more than you can with Zane or Moze. Like, I just feel like that's a little bit unfair. I mean, it's the same deal as well, of course. Let me go ahead and switch this back up. I want that fire damage. Against these flesh targets, the fire damage is going to do better damage anyway. In fact, I should just go ahead and bust out the Westar Gun. You know what? We'll go back to the more pain is power. Why not? Alright, let's repair this thing now. There we go. It is having a battle with my spider ant, and then it just melts at the moment I shot it. But yeah, you know, like I said, it is unfair. Like, Rakk attack is so good with these new perks, just because you can spam it. And yeah, I mean, that's a shame. If you're using Gamma Burst or Fadeaway, it's the same deal. Like, you really can't use those and take advantage of those new perks. So, I don't know. I mean, look at this thing. This gun is nuts, man. This is so crazy. Look at this. Man, the moment I'm on fire, it is risky because look at me melt. Gotta be careful about my shield. I gotta be careful about my health. But if I'm on fire, whenever I throw that thing out, oh my god, my Rakks do so much damage. And right here, the Rakks are going to literally kill all of his babies. I throw that out, every baby will die. Oh, maybe not every baby, but most of the babies died. Let's go kill Private Beans as well, why not? I mean, he's over here, so we can go and deal with him. But Private Beans is the one that can drop the Westar Gun if you're curious. There's a checkpoint right back there. This guy will always drop the Westar Gun, at least on Mayhem 3 and Mayhem 4. I know that when I made the video, a lot of people were saying that it wasn't guaranteed for them. They weren't getting it, which is weird because I always get it on Mayhem 3. And on Mayhem 4, I imagine you always get it as well. It just is what it is. But yeah, I mean, like, the guy's easy to kill. And let's just throw this at him. Yeah, he's easy to kill. And look, he always drops at least one. Sometimes he can drop two. You know, when that anointed week was going on, or at least that anointed thing where he was always dropping anointed, that was amazing. I farmed the crap out of him. Just trying to get, like, good anointed perks. I love this gun. I love this gun so much, man. It's such a fun gun to use. Alright. Let me just murder these enemies, and I think that will probably do it. Because this kind of shows us off. The main gun, of course, is this Westar Gun. I mean, it is nuts, man. It is really, really crazy. I mean, look at that. You can see the numbers, too. You can see them, like, if you pay close attention. Like, sometimes numbers... I mean, I don't know. It is a little bit tricky. I'm going to be honest with you. I guess I can't say that. I was going to say, like, you can see these numbers. It's like 50K. But that might not be the Westar Gun. That could be the Rakk attacks, you know. I'm not exactly sure, so... I don't want to 100% say, yeah, it's like 50K. But, you know, remember, we have the perk so that 20% of all my shots are actually going to be crits. So, I mean, like, that's something to consider. And, yeah, I mean, that's crazy. Like, it's so good with the Westar Gun. And this gun is super easy to use, too. You know, a lot of people also, when I made the video about the Westar Gun, they, you know, were saying things like, I don't even think they watched the video. They were just like saying things like, I hate charging up guns. Like, you don't have to charge this gun up. This is a non-charge up gun. It's a fully automatic SMG. Now, by the way, I also have another relic here. I'm going to throw it on. This is a Victory Rush, man. SMG damage and incinerate damage. That is nasty. Absolutely nasty. We lose the magazine. We lose the cooldown. So that's a big bummer. But it is going to make this thing hit a little bit harder just because that extra damage that we get off of this. Oh my god, it's crazy, dude. And if it is ever nighttime, the Nighthawk I have, that thing is like by far the best gun. There's no doubt about it. Like, that thing is way better than anything, especially if you hit him with the Rakk attack, because the one I have has that 100% more damage. And one thing I guess I should also point out here, or at least mention, is that with a build like this, if you have guns that just give you 100% extra damage on action skill in, you know, if those are your best guns, those are fine with this build. Because, you know, the main thing with this is that you're going to almost always have those perks going because of the insane amount of times that you can just spam Rakk attack. And especially if you can get some extra action skill cooldown. That's why on this class mod, I think you really want to get action skill cooldown if you could. That would be just the best thing ever. I personally think I want maybe splash damage, weapon damage, and action skill cooldown. I think that would be like the best version of this mod that you could probably get, because the splash damage is going to affect the Rakk attack. It's going to affect some of the weapons, and it would be nuts. Alrighty guys, well, that's going to do it for this video. Remember, if you are on PlayStation, you can always hit me up. My PSN is Jumpin' Production, just like my YouTube name, but without the S. If you send me a message and a friend request, and you want me to hook you up with some of this gear, I'm more than willing to do it. I normally just give everything I show in the video. That's kind of what I do. If you want some extra stuff, I can always give it to you. That's fine. But the main thing is that you don't have to give me anything in return. I know a lot of people will message me and say, like, can they trade for one particular item? You don't need to trade. If you want to send me stuff, that's cool. I'll take stuff. I love adding stuff to my collection. I have a huge collection of stuff, so I will definitely take stuff. But you don't have to give me anything. I'm willing to do it for anyone who will request it. So if you're interested in this build and you want to try it out for yourself, if you're on the PlayStation, just hit me up and I will try to hook you up. I would really appreciate it if you could like this video for me. Be sure to subscribe for future videos and make sure to click the bell. If you don't click the bell, you can't stay notified. So please click the bell. But that's going to do it for me. So I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.